everyone. Welcome back to the Life and Listings podcast. Today, I have an exciting guest, my husband, David, joining us. Hey, David. And he's joining us all the way from California. And I'm in Colorado right now, which is why we're not doing it side by side. We decided we would do a fun Valentine's Day edition where he could share a little bit about how he deals with me. Just kidding. So we wanted to kind of share. We've been married for a long time. We have 2 kids. He's put up with my multiple businesses. He is now traveling, and we thought it would be fun to share how we kind of juggle a little bit about everything. So, David, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
So, like Jennifer said, my name's David. I've been in the construction industry now for nearly 20 years, and I'm currently a project manager for a company that builds water and wastewater treatment plants. So not the probably the most glamorous thing that most people think of when they think of the construction industry, but I think it's really fun, and it's a unique way to kind of get back to the environment. And, this job in particular is at a Marine Corps base. So giving back to, our military members as well, and making sure that they have a nice facility to use and that will take care of their needs for the next, 40, 50 years or so. So yeah, a little bit about me. I grew up in Southern California, back in Southern California, oddly enough, doing this, with still trying to live in Colorado with Jennifer and our girls, but just not very good at it, as I like to joke with the people that I work with. But we've, I think, found a way to make it work, and 10 years into being married so far, and challenges are changing, between businesses growing and my career changing and going out and doing different things. So we're going to get into a little bit about how we make that work for us.
Yeah. And a little bit of background about me. I got my license when I was 20. David and I were dating. I was broke, bartending. He actually paid for my first Zilla spite on his credit card. So
we were both broke.
Well, I was still broke. So he loaned me a little money. And the rest is history. And we have just really worked on all of this together as we've changed as individuals, and as my business has grown. And like you said, his work has changed quite a bit, and I'm layering on kids with all that, and a lot of it just takes a bunch of communication. So hopefully we don't get too mushy today on today's episode. We really just thought many of you are either about to have kids, or you have kids, you're about to start businesses, or you have career changes, and there are a lot of things that you need to work on with your best friend and your partner to get through it. So I have some questions jot down. So David, I'm going to ask you this question first. How do you think we balance love and partnership while juggling careers and parenting?
So I think for us, it's always been about open communication and kind of pushing each other to succeed and push ourselves harder on how we attack our careers, and understanding that my career isn't more important than your career and vice versa, and that they're both equally important. And then really making a point to prioritize our time with each other when we are in the same state, which is not every day, or there's a lot of time apart. And then really focusing on intentionally spending one time, and how important that really is. As much as we love our girls, I think one of the best pieces of advice I heard when we were getting ready to have our first kid was how important it is for our kids to see a successful marriage, and that focusing on each other was one of the best things that we could do for our family. So I think that's a good summary of how we balance, our love and partnership together.
What's that one quote that I think your mom said, where it's like, you have to expect a certain percentage, but this one, like, it's not 50-50. It's like you give.
Yeah.
You tell it better than me.
Yeah. So actually, when I told my parents that I was going to propose to you, my mom gave me the best marriage advice that I've ever heard, and that I've shared with everybody that I know that was either getting engaged, getting married, or having any kind of marital trouble, which is, if both people go into the relationship and they're expecting to give 50% of their effort and then get 50% in return, it's bound to fail. But if both people go into it and they're expecting to give more than they receive, so give 60% and get 40% in return, that in general, it works better that way, where, it adds up to over 100%. So you're giving 120% towards the relationship. So, and I think that holds true. And I think we both do that, right? You can't be measuring, well, I did the dishes, so now you need to go do the laundry, or I picked up the living room, so you need to go rake the yard. It's about trying to do more for your partner than you expect them to do for you.
which no one's doing the dishes at our house right now because you're not here and I'm also not doing it. So
Paper plates for the win.
a little bit of background about where we've been at over the last couple of years. We do live in Colorado, but we put a little bit of focus on David's career over the last year. So we moved to Texas for a year. We moved the entire family there, and I'm blessed to have a business that I can do it from anywhere. So that's kind of one of those things where there's that give and take, right? Like my business isn't more important than his career growth and vice versa. We really try to work together as far as my traveling goes and his traveling. Conferences are important for me to go to for networking. So really kind of that like give and take of in that exact day, whose business or whose job is going to be more important, right? We're always discussing like, what do you have going on? Oh, I have a conference, but I have to do this meeting. Okay, which one we need to weigh out, which one has to win, right? Because we can't always be playing. Someone's always here with the kids. So
Well, and I feel like your business affords you that flexibility, obviously, as a business owner. And then it works well because the company that I work for is also supportive of you and what you do. And it makes it easy to schedule those kinds of things through time off, and communications, like a key word that we're going to keep using here a lot probably. But even with my bosses saying, hey, I've got this thing going on, and they've been really good about being flexible too.
how do you think our kids see our relationship and what do you hope they learn from us?
I think they see it as loving and playful. I don't know that everybody understands how goofy you are. And I don't think most people really have any idea of how goofy and silly that you can be. And so our kids get the inside view of just how silly both of us can be.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's playing games or board games or just messing around the house, and seeing that marriage isn't, and you and I have talked about this a bunch of times watching movies and TV and stuff, where marriage is always depicted as just this like awful thing that people should avoid. And that if you are married, oh, the guy is suffering because his wife is nagging him all the time. And, you know, the wife is suffering because her husband's a deadbeat, or, you know, there's all these terrible things. And you almost never see depictions of marriages that are just happy, successful, loving people that are pushing each other to be better. And so that's really what I hope our girls learn, is that this is achievable. This isn't impossible. It takes work, but it's not the way I think it's commonly depicted on the film, right? Where it's just suffering and stress and all these terrible things. It's like, this is my favorite person in the world. There's nobody I want to spend time with more. And I think focusing on that kind of thing makes it really easy. And that's what I hope they gain from it too.
When we realize we're probably messing them up in some aspect somewhere, we hope we're doing
100%.
We're not sure what that is.
100%.
So I'm hoping that there's some people listening that maybe they have two 9-to-5 jobs, or maybe they both are working on the business together. Like, what are some tips we can give to working parents? Because I have said a million times, I do not know how two normal 9-to-5 adult human beings raise kids right now. It's so hard. What tips can we give them?
I think one of the ones that you've been helping me with a lot lately is trying to set realistic short-term goals. And as short of term as, what am I trying to accomplish today? And, you know, we're both very driven, motivated people, I think, and we put a lot of stress on ourselves by saying, hey, today's Saturday, it's 8:00 in the morning, and I think today I'm going to build a shed. I'm going to rewire that bathroom. I'm going to tear down the next bathroom, and I'm going to do all these things, and I'm going to get it done today. And, oh, I'm sure I'm only going to make one trip to Home Depot and not 17. And so I think being able to set realistic short-term goals for ourselves and then relaying that to each other, like, hey, I think you're being ridiculous with the things you think you're going to accomplish today. Like, why don't you scale it back and let's try to knock one thing off of our list and then put another thing on our list that's, let's take the girls out for ice cream. Let's do something as a family. Let's go see a movie, and understand the bathroom renovation or that whatever project that we want to do because it helps us feel accomplished. It can also wait, right? It doesn't have to be done today. And there are more important things. So getting something done to make ourselves feel good, but also putting something in there that is beneficial for the whole family.
What did you tell me the other day? You're like, Mom, you're doing too much. Like, you need to stop. I think one of the biggest things for me too is just looking at the overall schedule. Like, we all think or want there to be like a home cooked meal on the table every night, fresh made pancakes and for breakfast. School lunch is made. That's not always
Spotless house.
it's yeah, spotless house. It's not always realistic. So I always like to look at my schedule and try to get ahead of it. If I know that I have a schedule that I am not going to be home with the kids until late at night every single night, I try to plan some of the meals and try to keep stuff in the fridge that I can just pop in the oven that isn't so hard. So that I'm not beating myself up, right? Like, oh, I was working all day, so I wasn't able to do these things. So looking ahead and trying to prepare and make myself a little bit easier. Like I've even been packing snacks and stuff ahead of time in the beginning of the week for the kids' lunches so I can just quickly do that. Because it's hard when you're working and we're trying to work out more and we're trying to get the kids to school. And then I'm just beating myself up because they don't have whatever they dreamt of for lunch. So just small little things like that, I feel like help.
And I think, mom guilt is a big one too, right? So like you mentioned, prepping meals that are easy and you throw them in the freezer or whatever. And we try pretty hard to feed our kids as healthy as we can 99% of the time, I think, short of, treats, desserts and things like that. But having that forethought of planning those things and keeping them in reserve so that when the situation pops up where it's not, hey, let's go run to McDonald's and give them junk food. And then it's, oh, God, now I feel bad because I gave them this junk food. And even though they're excited about their Happy Meal, like in my head, I'm thinking, oh, this is not good for them. So instead being able to pull something out of the freezer that is, a healthier option that's still pretty easily prepped.
Yeah. I'll do that every once in a while where I'll spend like a Sunday I'll make what we're making for dinner, but then I'll make like 2 extra of it. And that way it's just easy when things happen, right? It doesn't even just have to be work. It could be today I had to take the kid to the emergency room and I didn't have time to make dinner. And so by the time I get home, now we have to run out somewhere or whatever. This week
To be clear, that's a hypothetical that didn't happen today, right?
It did not.
Those are good.
No. Today's issue is that I overbook myself every day after school. So that's today's issue. So, okay, here's my next one. How do we keep our relationship strong despite our busy schedules? This one's crazy, especially because our busy schedules right now are like literally David flying out to a different state half of the week, every week. And then he flies back in and then we work. And then sometimes I go to conferences. We sometimes like high five at the airport while we land and take off. So what do we think we do there?
I don't know. I mean, I think we do still prioritize like our one-on-one time and make a point to try to figure out. I think this weekend is a great example, right? So like you said, I'm in California and this week we opted to bring you and the girls out and we're going to make it into a little vacation rather than send me going back and back and forth and back and forth. And we look at the same thing whenever you do have conferences is where is it and what time of year is it? And can we make it into a little mini family vacation so you can go do what you need to do. And then, maybe me and the girls are there and we go do something while we're waiting for your conference to end. And then we can spend the weekend having family time. So I think just trying to be creative about how we get that time in while still accomplishing like what feeds the type A side of us that is driven to get all these things done and take on all these ridiculous opportunities and do these things that for our careers, but still without sacrificing what's really important.
Yeah. And I'm going to piggyback on that to say like one-on-one time doesn't necessarily always have to mean like a traditional date. I feel like we've been pretty good at just like going to the gym together or like, do you want to go to Home Depot run with me? Like silly things of just being able to spend a little bit of time and then maybe stop at Starbucks afterwards. Like it doesn't always have to be this like fancy, expensive date to feel like we're getting some time together, even though we don't see each other in person a couple days a week. So
yeah, that's a great point because I think a lot of people may default back to, well, that means date night, that means babysitter, that means reservations, expensive meal, it means all those things. And it really doesn't. It's prioritizing one-on-one time, just living life, right? Home Depot runs you mentioned, or hey, I'm going to go down to the shop and do this thing. Like, do you want to just come hang out with me while I go do whatever? Or, hey, I need to hang this picture. I don't really need your help, but do you want to help me? That kind of thing. Real world examples.
as he laughs at me because I just like don't hang stuff, or he figures out that I hang stuff, and the way that I hang stuff drives him crazy because I'll just hit a nail in the wall multiple times until it's in the right place. There's like 800 holes.
It's really improving my drywall skills.
Okay, here's a good one. How has owning my own business changed our dynamic as a couple? Because in the beginning, when I became a realtor, that was a struggle for both of us, right? Like it was different. Taking phone calls all the time, we had to have discussions about it. So, how do you think that's changed our dynamic?
It's definitely changed it. You know, when we look back across the last 15 years of being together and where we were when we met versus where we are now, I think the way that it's changed and grown has been very, like, how do I say that? Because when I explain it to other people, I tell them, like, when they ask what you do, I say, you know, I always knew that she was smart and driven because you were pushing me constantly. And some of my biggest career changes have come as a result of you pushing me through, you know, minor verbal abuse, but important stuff. And then, but what I tell people is like, I didn't realize how smart you were until I started listening to you in your element. And I feel like, yeah, it takes away some time, but it also makes me really proud of you and who you are and what you're doing every day. And the fact that you've created this entire business out of thin air is something that I aspire to, that I've never been able to do and probably never will do. But watching you do it, I feel like has really just increased my respect and admiration for you in a different way.
I mean, I think too, it's changed the dynamic in probably opening up more lines of communication. Because if we have anyone listening that maybe just got their license or they're trying to navigate them being a business owner and their significant other not, and your dad was an entrepreneur, so like you grew up around this craziness. But there was a lot of communication, especially in the beginning, where it was like, do you really need to take that phone call right now? And then even kind of the other side of it was me learning how to set boundaries. And that's been a big kind of like foundation of Staats, is like setting boundaries and trying to stay within them. And many of you that know me know that that's still really hard for me to do, but I feel like I've set that more so because of my family and that being important, and being important to David too. Like, no, you should not be sending emails at 9 o'clock at night. Like, we need to be spending family time, right? David says, like, you're on my time now. Like, you're not on like business time anymore. And that's translated into being a parent. It started just with our marriage and our relationship and having a business. And then it translated very quickly into having kids and realizing that like I'm also on their time when they're with me. They don't, I mean, they're watching everything that we're doing. And more often than not, they're on a fake computer, like firing people or whatever at the kitchen table, which is maybe slightly funny, maybe not, I don't know. So, I mean, it has changed our dynamic, but I feel like for the better. I feel like our communication is stronger because we've dealt with more stressful things, I think, and we have to communicate through those. So,
And I feel like it actually helps us understand each other's job more, because what a lot of people probably don't know and would never guess is like the amount of time that we spend talking to each other about business things or leadership skills or communication skills and how to handle that tough client or this tough customer, or, hey, I've got this thing with the girls, got to play, but I've also got this thing due. And instead of being like judgmental or not understanding the importance of it, I think it helps us both understand more where the other person's coming from and develop solutions on how to accomplish all of that, right? So it's like, hey, I know you don't want to work tonight. I don't want you to work tonight, but I understand you need to do this. So like, go knock it out, spend 30 minutes or whatever, get it done. And then so we can focus undistracted on the other stuff.
yeah, what did you tell me the other day? You said, if you need to go to work today to make yourself feel better, those things off of your plate, then do it. But if you're just going in to like get things done, I think you shouldn't. And I feel like there's a lot of self-realization in that too, right? Like our communication, our talks of business and work and all those things, there's a lot of times where we're giving each other feedback as to, I think you might actually be in the wrong on this, right? Like you're complaining about a client or teammate or whatever. Have you actually thought about how that makes them feel, or you thought about the situation or whatever? So I think even then there's a lot of just like self-reflection of, well, you know me probably better than anyone in the world. So in this situation, is it me? Like, am I the one doing it? And I think there's a lot of that too.
Yeah, I agree.
So, okay, this has been great. I hope anybody listening has gotten, I hope it's not too mushy, but I hope that you take a little bit of this back if you have a relationship or a business you're growing. I hope this is helpful. David, thanks for joining us all the way from sunny California.
Enjoy the freezing cold.
Yeah, thanks. It's absolutely, yeah. We can't delivery of groceries right now because there's so much stuff. But thanks again, and thanks everyone for listening, and have a great day.